Hey all, here OS Reviews. You're watching our hands-on review of the iPazzPort mini Bluetooth keyboard. Now this is designed for Android TV boxes and smart TVs in general because a lot of them come with voice remotes, which although work fine, sometimes you need more precise input if you want to search a keyword that's harder to pronounce or is trickier for the voice input to recognize. Then something like an actual keyboard can still make sense. So this thing sells for 20 bucks, which is pretty affordable. Now it just uses Bluetooth essentially to connect to the TV box. It can even work with a phone or a tablet if you want to just use it for on-the-go input without a larger keyboard. It is also backlit, so there's going to be lights underneath so you can see it in darker environments. Now there are a few reasons why this is a kind of an interesting model. The first being that it can also function as a regular infrared remote. It has the ability to learn the channels automatically, so you can point it at a TV, a DVR, or a DVD player. Finally, this model in particular is designed for the Android Fire TV. So those come with a, again, voice remote that looks like this, and it has a silicone case so that you can actually stick the voice remote onto the back and you don't lose it. So it just becomes this one integrated unit where you can flip it around to access the voice remote and then flip it over to actually type something out. So everything is in this one neat package. So just taking a closer look at the remote itself, it is made entirely out of plastic, including the frame. What looks like metal is still plastic, but not a huge deal. It feels fairly decent in terms of construction. Infrared on the top. We just have a switch on the side which is for power, so flicking this on will turn on the Bluetooth automatically. We see an LED light, and on the bottom is the charging port. So I misspoke earlier, it's actually a mini USB that is the even older standard back in the day. So hopefully this can be upgraded to micro or even Type-C in the future, but now it looks like this back panel can be removed, but not really sure why you would want to. Since it is using rechargeable batteries, you don't really need to access this compartment. Designed in USA, made in China, and that's it. So a closer look at the keyboard in terms of its layout is pretty typical as far as the QWERTY is concerned. It is kind of an island style layout. The only downside is on the very top, because there are keys dedicated for the TV function, including turning your TV on, adjusting things like volume and channel, it pushes the actual QWERTY keyboard over to the left. So when you are kind of handling the keyboard, it's not completely centered, it's shifted. So it takes a little bit of time to get used to, and you do have to stretch your right hand fingers a little bit more over just to reach some of these buttons as a result. I guess one way they could improve on this in a future model would be having one row of these keys be moved onto the other side, onto the bottom. That would make the spacing feel more even, but just something to consider. Otherwise, there is no kind of dedicated number row, so they are just integrated in here in blue. And once paired, we're able to just control the entire kind of interface using the arrow keys. For instance, if this was an Android TV box, you could do the same thing, navigating between different pages, selecting different features. So we can move around and see this kind of virtual box or cursor appear on screen. So you can definitely use it in lieu of, let's say, a gesture or an air command-based interface, allowing you to scroll through web pages and apps, such as YouTube, for instance. Doing a quick just typing test here on camera, we can just do hello, for instance, and you can tell that in terms of latency, there's not really any, so it's quite fast in terms of just popping up. There's really, again, no lag at all between what we enter on the keyboard and what's popping up on the display. The keyboard is fairly sensitive and tactile feeling with a nice responsive click, and perhaps the back key could be a little bit larger or shifted onto its own row just to make it a bit more obvious. So that's the only thing that takes a little bit of time. Now if you want to activate the backlight, you can tap on, again, function and the light bulb, which is the spacebar, and you have a red backlight that turns on to life. This is not an RGB backlit keyboard, however, so you can't change the color to blue or to white if you want to do that. It only stays in red, so you can either have it kind of red or just turn it completely off. So again, if you are watching TV on the couch, and again, usually you're watching movies typically in the dark because you want to enjoy the cinematic feel, it is good that there's this backlight, which makes it a lot more usable. So the last thing I'll point out is the case is very much designed only for the Fire's voice remote, which is actually shorter than the majority of Android TV boxes on the market. It's a little bit of a shame because if you do want to use it with a different TV box, this silicone case is not really going to fit into it. So for instance, we have a Mi TV box here. You can see the remote's length is much longer than the space that they give you for the remote. And this Mi remote is actually a pretty standard size for most Chinese-based TV boxes, so other models on the market about the same length, you can see is significantly shorter than the Fire TV's remote, so you can't actually stick it onto the back. But otherwise, as far as the actual Bluetooth keyboard component, of course it's going to be compatible since all these devices just feature Bluetooth. You use that to pair it, and then you can still use the infrared to pair it with your TV if you want to control power. Definitely a convenient product to have, just because text entry has historically been a pain point for Android TV boxes, because they usually don't give you a keyboard in the box, and a lot of times if you want to do a long typing for searching a movie or something, it can be very tedious. And voice input, although it's could be easy if it gets it right, oftentimes produces errors that are hard to correct. So you can check out more details in the links down below, but for now that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. That's been the iPazzPort Mini Bluetooth Keyboard.